My camera isn't working for some reason, but I am here.
Okay, no problem. I just checked the participant list
There we
and
go.
saw you on there. So,
We're recording, James.
all right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our faculty roundtable on discussing Bongo. And we have 3 faculty members with us today that are going to talk about their use of Bongo. And the hope here is to maybe highlight some things that people don't know they can do in Bongo, pick up some tricks, some best practices, for your use of Bongo in the future. So we'll go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves. I'll start with Amy. Amy, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Kelley. I am faculty in the math department, and I am also one of the chairs for faculty development. So nice to see everyone this afternoon.
All right, thank you. Michael Wilson.
Hey, hi, my name is Michael Wilson. I teach astronomy and geology.
And then Steve Vivian.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm here. It's a little buggy. Steve Vivian here, English department.
All right. So let me start first with, in any one of the 3 can answer these questions. But so the first question is just how long have you been using Bongo? Has anyone been using it since, when did we start? Fall? You could have used it?
Yeah, I've used it since the fall.
Okay.
So have I.
I just started using it actually in the spring.
In the spring.
So I used it partially in the fall, but not enough to claim usage. I didn't use it 100% for my classes, but I do.
Okay. So what features would you say, and this is a question for each of you, I guess, what do you use pretty regularly, like every class period? What are the main sort of things in Bongo you use or you try to do with Bongo? Maybe we'll start with Amy.
I use the polls, and I definitely use the whiteboard every class session. I share my screen, and I think it's really cool because when I share my screen, it allows me to use the virtual calculator. So in teaching math, that's really helpful, that I can share my screen and my students can see actually the keystrokes that I'm doing with the virtual calculator. So I do use those tools a lot.
All right.
And the chat. Sorry about that. I use the chat a lot for my students to answer questions.
Michael, how about you?
Well, I also use the polls pretty much every time. I screen share as well because I have my lecture slides for that, and then I can use the drawing tools to draw on them, although trying to draw on them with the mouse kind of sucks, but you know, that might be my skill with that as well. I don't use the whiteboard because I actually think it has a little bit, it's a little too small, but I also have the one behind me, so it's a little less critical for my end. I also do record. Now, partly I'm recording lectures just for ease of use this semester, but also you have to record to do the attendance function. So that's pretty much what I use for checking attendance all the time.
All right, great. And Steve, how about you?
I don't, like Michael, I don't use the whiteboard too often. It seems a little small, a little awkward. That might be, and no doubt that's related to I'm teaching composition. It just doesn't, a sample essay, for example, it just doesn't cut the mustard. You can get individual sentences or brief passages up. So in the event I'm having students look at an extended piece of text, prose, I'll just upload a Word file and that works perfectly fine. Really well, actually. And the other feature I use a lot is the chat. Both the public, everybody can see it version of that, as well as the private chat. Some students like that. They prefer that. And that's fine. It works well. I do not record the sessions.
Okay, so I wanted to point out, I guess with those in attendance, I'm not sure if maybe we can do a quick, maybe just show of hands. You can raise your hand or thumbs up maybe. How many people have used Bongo or are using Bongo right now of our participants?
Jamie, sorry, Jamie. I'm one of the people that requested a Zoom license, so I'm using it one more semester right now, and so I want to learn.
Yeah.
So I no, not using it. I'm
Okay.
one of them.
Me too. I'm here to learn.
Okay.
I can echo Keith. Same thing. I'm a Zoom guy. I'm hoping to learn and hear from the panelists. You know, if they've used Zoom and used Bongo, is it like Chevy and Ford, or is it one better than the other, that kind of thing?
Okay. So it looks like we've got probably majority of people have not used it. I think. No, about half and half. So I wanted to show you, and you should be able to see my screen now, I believe. So what I'm showing is the typical kind of Bongo screen. And just to point out a couple of things that some of the panelists were talking about, things like the chat. So along the left-hand side, you have essentially similar tools to what you have in Zoom. I think Zoom, they're along the bottom. Here, they're along the left side. There's a participant tab, chat. And there's a way to, you can chat with individual students from the participant list. You can choose the student and chat with them. And the polling feature is there as well. There are breakout rooms. So I guess that was one thing I don't recall as we were talking. Has anybody used the breakout rooms on the panel?
I have. I've used them, Jamie.
Okay.
One thing that was challenging in first learning the breakout rooms is ensuring silence because they open up as their own windows. And so as the instructor, if you're not muted, then they can hear what's going on in the other breakout rooms, it appears. That's what students have told me. So that was the challenge. But after learning how to navigate that, it's gone fine for using them for exams and things like that.
I initially tried to do it for lab work, and that, as Amy pointed out, you can hear each other in the different rooms. And the hot mess on my end was if a student had a question, I didn't, especially since it was the first week, I didn't know who was asking it and what room they were in. So I just swapped back to just one room for lab work.
Okay. Yeah, I have not used the breakout rooms, so that's one of the reasons I asked. I kind of same as you guys. I pretty much use the screen sharing feature quite a bit. And the other thing to show you, I'm sorry, I'm kind of switching screens on you, is the. And I think Steve may have pointed out. Did Steve, you've used the presentations tool to upload files?
Yes.
Yeah, so there are two ways you can kind of share content. One is to share screen, which I prefer. I tend to use that one so I can share a browser tab. I can share a PowerPoint, something I have open. But you can also go under presentations and upload files there. And so that's, you know, if you have, like what Steve was talking about, you have sample documents, things you're using, you can preload them and just switch between those all the time.
Jamie, can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you share the screen, does the student see an exact duplicate of your screen, or is it just the inside content? So do they see the tabs that I have opened at the top and, you know, the stuff at the bottom, or do they just see the content screen?
It depends. Because you can share, I think Zoom is the same way. You can share an individual window you have open, or you can share the whole monitor. For instance, I have two monitors, so I always have my lecture open on the one side, and occasionally I'll have, like if I have a more complicated thing, I'll share the whole thing, and yeah, the tabs will be visible in that case.
So if we only want to share not the whole monitor, but just the inside screen, there is some kind of way to do that in Bongo.
Yeah, you just select the individual window.
Okay, thank you.
Has anyone else used the share full screen tool in Bongo, Steve or Amy? And has that worked fairly well? I know I have an issue where I see a kind of screen within screen when that shows up. Have you guys encountered that?
I occasionally get flickering when I do that, but I don't share the whole thing often.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I'm with Michael. I haven't shared. I stopped sharing the whole thing and shared the specific tab, only because they weren't able to see everything when I was doing it that way. And then if I shared the specific tab, they could see the entire thing that I wanted them to see. So I started just sharing the individual tab and not the full screen.
Yeah, I've not used it either. I just, I mean, broadly speaking, and not only true within recent years, but in all the time I've taught online for over 20 years, I try to, within the technical context, I try to keep it as low tech as I can, if that makes sense. The odds of things going wrong are reduced. So, no, I haven't used that feature.
Okay. Yeah, I like you guys. I found that it's makes more sense to me to be able to switch screens between a specific PowerPoint or a browser window that's open. And it took some practice getting used to that. Whereas in Zoom, I think sharing the whole screen was somewhat easier. But once you get the hang of it, you can fairly quickly, I find, switch back between screens pretty easily. Another question for the panel, and we'll go with Amy first, but how are students made aware of your virtual class meetings?
So I let them know in the lecture that we would be meeting on Bongo all the time. And then what I do is I start the session, and you can easily click back out and go to announcements. And I put in the announcements, the lecture is starting now. And they get it right away. And I do that in announcements because it not only goes into the announcement on the classroom, but I ask them to download the Pulse app. So it goes to their Pulse app and it goes to their email. That class is starting. And so a lot of times, if there are students who are frequently absent, I've noticed that they start coming more often when I start doing that. So that's how I announce that class is starting.
Okay, Michael?
Honestly, really not terribly different from in person. That they signed up for the class, they know when it meets. So I have the meeting on the calendar. You know, the first couple of sessions, I might have an announcement like Amy said, but for the most part, if they're going to skip, they're probably going to skip anyway.
Steve?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty close to the way Michael does it. Just as, you know, if we were on campus, I mean, they know what room it's in and what time. But that said, at the beginning of the semester, I do send them email reminders the day before. And that's worked pretty well. That has not been an issue. My sense is that if the student's going to be absent, it's not because the student has forgotten when the class meets or how to enter the classroom.
Now, on that point about entering the classroom, do you instruct your students early on about where the virtual classroom is within D2L?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, most definitely.
And probably everybody has seen this, that, you know, along the ribbon at the top of the screen, it says virtual classroom. But as many of us know, even physically in the classroom, you may think that's pretty obvious, but it isn't always. So it's not a bad idea to mention to them that is where they should be clicking. Because I have first week had people, I can't get into the classroom. It's like, well, you know, they're looking for the Zoom link. They're used to what we did before. So that is one of the things I personally like about Bongo is it's all there in D2L. They just click on virtual classroom and the classes are listed. And typically when you create those, like I think Michael said, you can create, or it will create a calendar item. So it will come up on the calendar. And if they have the Pulse app, which really is a good thing for students to get, that comes up on their phones. They get notices of things. That's pretty convenient to do it that way.
I had a question, Jamie. So when they, because students haven't talked to me that much. I mean, I can use D2L to some extent on my phone. I did figure out that you had to, remember that how I couldn't figure out how to grade something? You have to unlock so you can twist on your phone, so it'll twist on your phone, see us. For anybody that found that out, you have to unlock your phone so that it can go sideways, landscape, before you can see some assignments, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, are they able to use, attend classes on Bongo with their phones? I mean, a lot of my students attend Zoom on their phones. I'm just curious. They are, but they have to go to the browser and everything, right? They have to go to the browser, go to D2L, log in, right? They can't do it. I mean, I know the Pulse app doesn't have it, right? So.
No, I believe the Pulse app does.
Oh, it does.
I know Amy Patrick in your department, I believe he teaches using the Pulse app. He uses Bongo. So I'm not sure if anyone can speak to. I know my students use phones to access, but I'm not sure what that looks like from their point of view. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience.
Well, that'd be awesome if they could just use the Pulse app to join the meet, But
I've had my students use the app to join class. I know that recently they were having issues with when they used the app from their phone, with their devices being able to allow them to use their microphone. But it seemed like that was fixed within a couple of days. And a lot of times they would use the phone for the camera and use their computer for the microphone. So I've seen them be on both actually at the same time.
So Jamie, can I ask a question again? Because I'm completely unfamiliar with Bongo. So I'm good with Zoom. I put the Zoom login instructions day one. It's in the syllabus, all that stuff. So what's the path of least resistance to get the student into the Bongo section?
They click on, what I told my students is click on the virtual classroom along the top of D2L, and the classes will be listed there in chronological order. When you schedule.
Classes meaning their classes?
They're just that section that they're in, yes. They're class sections that you set up.
Yeah, when they log in, they'll see that phrase virtual classroom and the blue ribbon that runs across the top of the page.
Okay.
Yeah,
can I answer Patrick's question also?
Yes.
So Patrick, with my syllabus in D2L, under my page, I created important course documents, and I created a document that gave students like a step-by-step instruction on how to get to the Bongo lectures. And then I also in there included like how Jamie's showing the active meetings show the meetings, the listing of your lectures for the semester. Under that, your recorded meetings will be there. So I just posted that so they would always have it for reference, so they wouldn't keep coming saying, I don't know how to get into class. So if they emailed me that, I would just say, oh, look in your course, important course documents is there. But after the first day, they had figured it out. It wasn't hard for them to figure out at all.
Okay. Yeah. So Amy, would you mind emailing me the language you give your students? Because I'm looking on my iPad now and I see the virtual classroom in the blue ribbon, so that they click on that.
Yes, I'll send it to you now.
You can see my screen share, I think it's showing.
Right. Yeah, I see it now. So, and if we're going to be fair, that's probably an easier way to get into the virtual classroom than Zoom.
Yes.
Even though I like Zoom better because I'm familiar with it. So that's why I'm here. I want to get this figured out.
Yeah, I viewed the Zoom Bongo thing as there's pluses and minuses. This to me is one of the pluses, is it's very much more streamlined for the student. So that you should have less issues with people saying, well, I didn't get the Zoom link. They don't check their email. So we've had faculty who email them all the information and they never check their email. And then 4 weeks in, they're like, well, I've never gotten my class information. That shouldn't happen, because if you're in D2L, you click around, you might click on virtual classroom. That would make sense.
That's why I asked Amy for that language, because I will put that language. Plus, I have not, as a Zoom teacher, I have not experienced the student having trouble getting to the session. they get there if they want to get there. Like you were saying earlier, if they're going to skip, they're going to skip.
Well,
But
I mean,
it's
I
never been
post
an
the Zoom.
access issue. So
I post the
just
Zoom
want to,
information. Oh, sorry, Patrick. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I like the idea of Amy's language. I'm going to plagiarize it, and I'm going to put it in my right up front. I mean, my Zoom login instructions are on page 1 of my course syllabus. So I just want to, and the link for virtual classroom makes sense to me. I get that.
Yeah, my login is also Zoom login is also on the home page. So it says right there, right every time they go to the home page of the course, they see it. But that's besides the point. Now, one thing I did notice, because I thought about using Bongo at first. Now, if I'm right, you have to schedule every single meeting individually, right? With Bongo, that's the only difference between that and Zoom, is where Zoom is you can do recurring twice a week meetings or whatever you need to do. But so
You can do it the same way, Keith, and Bongo.
You can,
when you
okay.
first schedule them, you can schedule recurring meetings. Like I scheduled all of mine for the whole semester. It's only but the only difference is that in Bongo, you have to do like all your Monday lectures, all your Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Versus how you could choose like twice a week or whatever.
Right.
In Bongo,
Okay.
you have to choose per the day, and then you can save for 16 weeks.
Oh, okay. But then you just do each one separately, and it'll still do it, right? And so,
Yep.
Okay.
It'll list them all together.
And it'll list them all. It'll list them together, and they'll be chronological, like be the Monday or the Tuesday, and then Thursday, and then okay, gotcha.
So-
Yes.
Awesome.
So just gotta watch out for those pesky days off in your schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
So if you did a Tuesday, Thursday for fall, you'll obviously have Thanksgiving. So do you go and then remove that class from the schedule?
That's what I've done. Yeah.
Okay.
You can delete them afterwards.
Yeah,
You can delete a class, just a specific date.
Specific one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Margot, did you have a question? I know you had your hand up.
I did, and I didn't want to interrupt the flow because you all are really getting stuff done. And, as an adjunct and with speech, it's been, how can I say, challenging because I was set to get ready to teach, and then some other stuff happened where I was bumped, and so then it doesn't give me the access to troubleshoot and to navigate the Bongo and all of that because it takes the course away. So I think I probably need to find out, what are they doing for people or adjuncts in this situation? Because I haven't had any intense training, like, hands-on in order to make it all come together. And I had done everything else in preparation, so.
Yeah. What I would suggest is reach out to that SSC online at ssc.edu email, which Lisa gets, Noah gets. Reach out and ask Lisa that question. I'm not sure what the situation is with sandboxes, but that maybe is something they could do to allow you a practice site. But you'd want to talk with Lisa.
Okay, that's fine, and that's part of the reason why I was just carry on.
Yeah. That's a very good point, though. Yeah. Yeah. And for
And
anyone
Margot,
who's not using it and wants to and doesn't have an active class, you could check with Lisa Miller to see if there's some way you could get access to a practice shell.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we probably could.
I also wanted to share with Margot that it may be possible if you go on the faculty development D2L page, you may find some of the recorded sessions from spring that had trainings on D2L. So that may be helpful there also.
All right, thank you.
And one other thing in the chat, I put I copied a link to our teaching and learning blog where we put up a Getting Started with Bongo article with a bunch of links. So I put that up. I'll probably resend that globally here as an email later this week. I know Lisa sends it out a number of different times last semester. But it's definitely a go-to site. There's a number of documents from Bongo directly. I think one of them on there's one I found, which is actually a student and a faculty member at a college who did a combined walkthrough of Bongo. So it was kind of like the student side and the faculty side together. I think that link is in there. So definitely go check that out. And I'll be talking with Lisa. We will follow up with some more specific Bongo training, very basic kind of walkthrough. The purpose here was to kind of just get some feedback from faculty who have used it. But yeah, we will do some more individual training, on just Bongo in the coming weeks. So one, I'll look at my list of questions real quick, because we're getting close to the end of time. So two last questions. First is, what are some of the challenges? Let's go back. Michael, I think, mentioned recording classes. So how many of you record your classes, and why do you or do you not want to record classes? If you could speak to that.
I do not record.
Okay.
And I record them it's funny because I record them for my Math 100 students. For my Math 93 students, I don't record them because when I first started recording them, then they weren't coming to class as much. So I stopped recording them. And part of it too is that they do more discussion in the chat, and it records some of the chat also, I think. And so that was one reason that I stopped it too. But when they knew that I was recording it, there were like 3 students who perpetually would not come to class. And then when they didn't find the recording, they started coming. So I stopped recording. So they would come.
Yeah, that's why I don't use the recording. The students, at least some of them, are uncomfortable with that. And that's entirely understandable, at least in my view. And beyond that, all the information that would be in a lecture, quote unquote, I've already got uploaded. It's always there in the D2L platform. Everything, in text form.
And Jamie, from a broader point of view, Bongo, Zoom, doesn't matter, Microsoft Teams. We lawyers call recordings evidence. So I can't control what somebody else is going to say in a public forum. So that's why I don't ever record. I don't like being recorded, to tell you the truth.
Exactly. We don't like it either.
I mean, in the non-virtual world, if they recorded me, that was fine, but they were doing it on a little tape recorder. I'm dating myself, of course. But
right.
I wouldn't record myself in room 4460. So if you want to hear Professor Dean, you got to show up.
Okay. Michael, same. It sounds like you had the same thing. You weren't recording just for attendance.
I have been recording, mostly because I know some people have tech issues here and there, and I've had numerous people like apparently sometimes Bongo is twitchy on Chromebooks, so I've had a couple of students who've hopped in and out with that. But I don't plan on recording starting in the fall once we're doing the 50-50 thing, because that's going to be more classroom like, and we should have the system down at that point as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. Going up to this point, I've been much more lenient because I've realized we've been in this strange world of COVID and people's schedules are different. But yeah, as I think we get back to some normalcy, I will kind of consider really should be coming to class. That recording is a convenience now because of the situation, but that doesn't mean something I would do routinely. One thing I should say about recordings is there is the ability when you record, it will record attendance for that meeting. So it'll tell you who was there and how long they were in attendance. So I know some people who have recorded and then they just don't publish the recordings, which you can do that. And they can at least go and check attendance, but the students don't get the recording is another option.
Also, I know this from lab, if you only record for, I don't know if there's a minimum actually, 10, 30 seconds, something like that, it still does the attendance for the whole period.
Yeah, you can pause throughout. All right, well, one final.
Jamie, I had a question on that. If you don't publish, if you record and don't publish, you go back later and change your mind and decide to publish?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I've not looked at that. I know when you're setting up a meeting, there's a button that says publish recording, and you can uncheck that. I'm imagining you can manually publish it afterwards, but I've never done that myself. So I
want to say I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you where it is offhand.
Okay. I'll search for it. Thank you.
Can you edit the recording?
No, I don't believe so. I know you can download the recording and you can share a link to the recording, but I don't think it's a file that you can edit. I don't believe so. Go ahead. So let me go ahead and stop sharing content.
Jamie, hold on a second. Jamie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Amy, could you repeat your question? Can you get back and publish after? What did you say about after recording?
So if you decided that you were going to record, but you were not going to publish the recording, later go back and decide to publish the recording.
Okay. I was just trying to get these notes down, so because I'm gonna look into that. And then Professor Liu, you wanted to know if you could edit the recording post-recording.
Yes.
Okay.
In case I said something wrong, I want to correct it. So can I?
I think you can, because I know that. I think you can. I'll look into it and we'll give you some information.
Okay.
Thanks, Noah. All right, well, so we're kind of getting close. Well, we're a little over time, but we'll wrap this up. What I wanted to do as a final question was just ask each of the members to comment on what, if there was one tip you would want to give faculty who have not used Bongo yet, like what tip or suggestion would you make to those faculty? And we'll start with Amy.
My suggestion is to not think that it's that much different from Zoom. There are some features in Zoom where they may be easier to do, but it's really not that much different. And it doesn't take a lot of playing around. If you just play around with it for 15 minutes for maybe like a week, you'll catch on. And just I let my students know, like, hey, this is new. I'm going to make some mistakes, be ready. And they were okay with it. So that was one thing. And the whiteboard appears small, but you can elongate it horizontally. And that helped me too, if you want to use it. I thought it was just that little square, but when I learned how to make it bigger, initially I was upset because I couldn't do the whiteboard and see my students at the same time. But then when I realized that I could elongate it horizontally and still see them, it helped. So just don't be afraid of it. It's not that bad.
Michael?
Well, Amy kind of covered what I would have said there, but I think I can find something. With the presentation upload you mentioned earlier, one of the caveats with that is it transforms it into a PDF. So if you do what I do, like my lectures were not designed for this, not that any of ours were, but I have like nested images that pop in front of each other. That won't work if you upload the presentation. So you may have to share a PowerPoint with that one.
Steve?
Yeah, to second what Michael said, that is true. If you are uploading a Word file, it will be converted to a PDF. So with that point in mind, Bongo is not difficult to learn to use. I agree. I would simply say what I'd say if you're using Zoom or any other online platform, this is not unique to Bongo. Just anticipate technical difficulties. They're going to happen. But they're not consistent. It's worked pretty well, I think.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. Are there any quick questions before we sign off?
I put this in the chat. Is it still true that Bongo does not have a virtual option, virtual background?
Yes, there's no virtual background.
Because you can see my new office behind me here that the college got me.
It looks like you haven't moved in yet.
I haven't put all my stuff in yet, but they said if you shut up in meetings, we'll get you a new office. So I like it.
Can you set the recurrent meetings for all your students, for example, office hour?
Yeah, there is a way to do office hours where you can invite specific people if you want to do individual meetings. Lisa, I believe, put something up in the TL site. And Noah, maybe that's something if you can make a note. I think Lisa had looked into that. Yes, you can do office hours using Bongo, because that was a question I had too, was I thought it's tied to each section, but there is a way to make it so any student could, if they have the link, could go to that office hour time. So I think you can create a bongo like that. But if Noah looks into that, we can send something out about how to do that.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank Amy, Michael, and Steve for participating in this. Really appreciate that. And again, if you have any questions about this stuff, certainly reach out to the SSC online at ssc.edu. I also put up the teaching and learning page, so you can get the URL there. I put it in the chat, but it's up there as well. That has a nice set of resources for using Bongo. And then just keep your eye out in the coming weeks, and we'll probably have some additional training sessions just focusing on kind of walking through the basics of Bongo. And so thank you everyone for attending. Have a great rest of the week and a great rest of the semester. If I don't see you before then, all right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Jamie.
good day.
Thanks,
Bye.
Amy.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Great job, everyone. Thank you very much.